it's Jen. I have been making some buttons with some new button molds from Mold Muse, and as I was finishing them up, getting ready to go in the oven, I thought I would do a couple with you just to show you some tips and tricks that I've learned. So here's some of the ones I was working on last night. And I really love this this super sweet little intricate inlay button there. And then here's a few more. Now these are those were all out of Sculpey 3 clay. And these here are out of Fimo clay. And in the past, this was the Fimo Effects. And in the past, this clay here, I wasn't as crazy about it because it's so hard. But what it's just, you have to have a lot of strength in your fingers to kind of soften it up. However, with this smaller, this little inlay button here, it doesn't take nearly as much clay as, say, like this deeper one takes quite a bit. So I found it, you know, pretty easy to use the Fimo in this, and I definitely want to get a couple more colors of the Fimo. The thing with the Fimo clay is because it's so much harder, it's much, much easier to get out of the mold. Like these buttons are really easy to get out because the softer the clay is, the harder it is to get out of the mold. And even with the Sculpey clays, it's kind of strange because some of them are harder, even though it's the same type of clay. Some of the colors are harder than others. So for example, I was having an almost impossible time getting the red out because it was so soft. You can tell with these couple, I tried to use even some perfect pearls on those to get it to release, and I could only get one good red button. So I think what I'm going to do is, like, I'm going to get the red in the Fimo. But other colors, like the yellow, is much harder than the red, and so those came out really pretty. I guess it's just a matter of playing with them and seeing what works. But I'm going to use this kind of rosy pink right now, and this seems pretty hard. So I'll start with this small little button, and this is matte clay. It doesn't really have a sparkle to it. So a couple things. When I use the perfect pearls, it definitely helps, and I use just a tiny, tiny bit. I usually put some in the middle around the little button posts, and then I'll put some around the outside. I like the pearlized effect that it gives, but it also definitely helps as like a release agent. So there's that, and this, like I said, this mold just takes a tiny little bit of clay. So you want to soften it up in your hands. Another tip I'm going to give you guys is, last night, these Fimo buttons, the green ones, these light green ones, they bake at a different temperature and for a different length, so I have to do them separately. And I had put them on a piece of plastic last night, and they adhered a little bit to it overnight. So if you're going to let your buttons sit, you want to put them on something pliable so that you can get underneath them to get them off when I want to transfer them to my tray. So you want to mold it between your fingers until it's just soft. The more you mold it, the softer it'll get, and then it'll be harder to get out of the mold. So I just make a flat little disc and press it in there. Now the key is getting the right amount in there. If you have too much or too little, you're going to have some issues. But I take a roller, I take what I think will be about the right amount, And actually, I think I guessed pretty well. And then you really want to make sure you press it down to get out any air bubbles that might be in there. Okay, I lucked out on this one. I guessed fairly accurately. And then I take the small end of this little stylist and you just rub away the part that is over the little button posts. And then I go back and kind of roll that back out. And then what you want to do with all of your buttons is you want to pull the edges back in so that if there's any little bit of clay that's overlapping the edge, it disappears. That way, when you pop out your button and when you bake it, it's gonna be perfectly smooth around the edge, just like that. And then I take this, my stylus, and I just kind of wiggle the posts a little bit. And then depending on the button, this one I just bend and it usually pops right out. Yep, one little push. I will do a close-up of that. Isn't that sweet? I love that little button. So I'm going to move that to my tray. Okay. Oh, can we pan back out here? Oh, it doesn't want to pan back out. What's the problem? There we go. Okay. So this I have found, and I'm sorry, I'm not sure what the name of this is, but it's in with the vintage button molds from Mold Muse. This is by far the easiest mold to get the buttons out of. So next we'll do a little flower. This one can be a little trickier to get the button out of because of the little petals, and the posts on this one are much deeper. So again, I'm going to add some Perfect Pearls, and this is the pearl color of the Perfect Pearls. I haven't tried any other like little release agents, and you could use any color you wanted, but I definitely like the pearlized effect that this gives to the buttons. So what I'll do on this one, just to kind of show you, is I'll start off with less than what I need, and you can add or take away very easily. So you can see there that I need some more, and you can just lay a piece right on top. Again, you want to make sure you push it in good to get rid of any air bubbles. And then you can use this tool to roll it right out. And then sometimes if there's any hanging over the edge, I'll just wipe it off. And after you start making them, you really get a feel for like how much clay you need and when there's too much in there. The next one I do, maybe I'll just put way too much in there and kind of show you how I deal with that. Oops. And so you kind of keep going. Back and forth between rolling it out and pulling the walls back. And sometimes it takes a few times. Well, this one is going to be a little thicker, I can tell. I could probably have had a hair less clay. Okay, we'll see how it comes out. So this one, I just give a little, whoa, it came out on the first try. That does not always happen. That one came out really good. Sometimes I have a harder time getting it out, and a lot of times I have to take my little tool and just reform the sides a little bit if they get funky when it's coming out, but a lot of times I can just fix them with the little tool. And here, I'll just lift it up and show it to you. So there's that one. That's a pretty color. I haven't made these before. And then this mold, this is like the square vintage button mold. It's really deep. It takes quite a bit of clay. And again, it can be a little trickier to get out. It has very deep posts, so I try and make sure I get some of the perfect pearls around the post so that it will help, again, help it release a little bit. And I have been using, I've made over 100 buttons, and I have been using this Perfect Pearls, which was, you know, I've had this forever. It doesn't really take very much at all. You just need a tiny little bit of dusting. Otherwise the button gets really white in appearance. Okay, do we need to refocus? Maybe. So I will put way too much in this one, just so I can kind of show you guys. This should be way too much, by a lot. So you just start like pulling it off, and I take it from the outside in and just push it in. And this is like crazy way too much. So you just like pull it off like that. And when you roll it out too, you can tell if it starts going over the edges. There, that's not too bad. If it starts rolling off the edges, you just take your hand like that and pull it off. So we're gonna pull this back a little bit. Even though this button is super deep, I guess it's a little bit tricky to get out without getting the edges bent, but again, it's going to depend on the thickness of your clay. You know, a harder clay would be better, but this takes quite a bit of clay, so it would. I wish I had more strength in my thumbs to maneuver that Fimo clay. I think it should be good. So this one, nope. Okay, so the rosy pink clay works really, really well. I am telling you guys, some of the, you know, it's the exact same, you know, Sculpey 3 clay, but for some reason, some of the colors are more difficult than others to work with. It's really strange. Or I don't know if it's the colors or maybe just the, you know, that particular batch of it. So there's that one. So I hope you guys found that helpful. I'm gonna bake these up and put them on some cards, and then I'll show you the end product when I'm done. Hey guys, as I was working away here, I just wanted to show you kind of, this one got a little air pocket in it. So you can see there it's, sometimes it don't matter if it has a little blemish, but that's too much for me. So all I do, since it already has the pearl and everything on there, is I'm gonna just wiggle it back into the mold. So that, you know, I don't waste that piece of clay. And just remold it. Really making sure to try and get that air bubble out of there. But you can, you can use that same one. You don't have to throw it away or anything. And hopefully this time it will come out better. It usually doesn't take nearly as much work because you have it pretty well formed. Oh, it still has a couple tiny little air bubbles in it. I'm going to try one more time. This is the first time I've had to do it 3 times. Usually the second time I do it, it comes out really well. I'm going to just add a smidge more clay to it. And with your, and these are, you can get all types of little clay tools in the clay section. These happen to be some Martha Stewart tools that were on clearance a while ago. So I don't think they have those anymore. So I just wanted to show you that not every one of my buttons are so easy as those first few I did. The other thing I was thinking with, yesterday it was really warm here and I had the windows open, and I'm sure the humidity and how hot it is outside impacts the clay. Sometimes I've taken harder clays and put them on, or softer clays and put them on a little ice block. To try and harden up the clay while I'm working with it. There we go. So it does take some work sometimes to get them to come out the way you want them to. All right, I'll be back with the end product. Hey guys, okay, so here are the finished projects. I've carded up some of these, and then I'll show you, this is what's left over, and I can kind of do a close-up of these. So I love these buttons. Love them, love them, love them. Only one of the red ones came out. There's the yellow, and this was the Fimo clay. I really like that color. These are a little bit big for me, these two. But I also like the square ones a lot. I like these kind of mid to smaller size buttons. I think I would utilize more than the big ones. So, and this one, I just watercolored up this stamp and attached the buttons. And then these two sets are going to different people. Let's see, do these go together? Yes. Sorry. These are, I had stamped the background. This is just Bristol paper. And this here is a Martha Stewart punch. And then these are flower dies. So I just cut those out. And then these are going to someone else. So I use that same stamp here with some, I think that's sepia archival ink. And this is a flower stamp I have that has a matching little die cut. And I use the same ink there. And then this is another flower die that I have. I just layered these couple of dies and added the buttons. I think I like carding the buttons as much as I do making them and finding pretty ways of presenting them. So again, if anybody has any questions on any of this, let me know, and you guys have a great day. Bye-bye.